Hello, welcome to Richard's Comics. On today's episode, I want to go over my latest comic book haul. It's a mix of new comics as well as some old comics I've gotten from various dollar bins and from different comic books in my recent travels. So let's go ahead and start with the first book. This is Warlock and the Infinity Watch number 9. Really nice Thanos, Galactus, and Gamora cover. This crosses over with the Infinity War. This particular issue actually gives you the origin of Gamora. Okay, next book. This is The Walking Dead, number 187. For those familiar with The Walking Dead, it actually went up to 193. Most of these books are actually a little bit hard to track down. This one's pretty interesting. It's got a good confrontation kind of conversation with Michonne and Rick. Also, it talks about working with the Commonwealth and with Alexandria. It's a pretty interesting comic book. Next up, this is a really beat up copy of Thor, number 487, missing part of the cover. This was another dollar book. Not the greatest Thor. It really didn't hit its stride, in my opinion, until Jason Aaron took over the book quite a few years later. This book's okay, it's fine. It really focuses more on Thor and Lady Sif. And you can see he's actually in a battle with the Midgard Serpent. Next book. This is Silver Surfer, number 23. Believe the artist is Ron Lim. Pretty good story. Silver Surfer from 1987 up until about 1998 was my personal favorite run of Silver Surfer. There's definitely some classic stuff back when Stan Lee did it that is absolutely solid. And there's been a few good titles here and there like Silver Surfer Black that have come out since. Next up is Silver Surfer number 56. Really cool Thanos cover. This is an Infinity Gauntlet crossover. This is kind of shows an alternate reality where Thanos was able to successfully pretty much conquer the universe with the Infinity Gauntlet. Next up is the issue Warlock and Infinity Watch, number 8. This features a pretty cool battle between Gamora and Thanos. Definitely worth checking out. Next book is one from Image. This is Brass, number 1. I actually got this because of the art. The art is very solid in the title. This came out in 1997. I'd never even heard of this until I found it in the dollar bin issues. It's, like I said, the art's really the strong suit. The story itself is okay, but if you really want to see some really solid art, I definitely recommend checking out Brass. This is Brass issue number 3. I believe it's only a 3-issue miniseries. I was not able to find number 2. I'll definitely be on the lookout for it. Next up, Who's Who in Star Trek number 1. This is actually a 2-issue volume. DC did kind of a Who's Who. It was similar to what Marvel did with the Marvel Encyclopedia books. It just tells you basically everybody in the original Star Trek continuity. It's pretty good. The art's pretty solid. And this came out actually right before Star Trek The Next Generation TV show came out. So it really focuses more on the original crew. Next up is a more recent issue. This is Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters, IG-88. This actually takes place after IG-88 was defeated by Darth Vader. Focuses, like the book says, on IG-88. Pretty interesting book. IG-88 has typical droid efficiency, not really any mercy or love or compassion. And obviously he's a very cold character, but a pretty interesting one too. Next up, Silver Surfer number 19 from that volume that started back in 1987. It's got a pretty good battle between Silver Surfer and Firelord. We're going to switch over to DC. This is from the New 52, Phantom Stranger number 0. Next up is a newsstand version of Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars number 12, the last issue in the Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. Doom stands triumphant, or does he? And that's kind of what the story's about. Next issue we have is another Infinity Gauntlet crossover. This is the epilogue with Doctor Strange, Adam Warlock, and Gamora. It also has Pip the Troll in it. You kind of get to see the, well, just like the issue says, the epilogue about how Warlock is coping with having the Infinity Gauntlet and how it affects him, and his friends are actually worried about him. And so this issue kind of dives into that topic. Next up is basically a straight up cover by. This is Deathlock number 25. There's a big battle between Moses Magnum, Black Panther in Wakanda, and Deathlock. And I really got this because of the shiny cover. And we're going to switch up again. Oh, got two of them. This is Archer and Armstrong, number 25. You can see it kind of takes place back during the Crusades. This is by Valiant. This crosses over with the, I believe, the Eternal Warrior. And it is a pretty interesting series. It's not really worth anything, hence why it was in the dollar bin, but I really enjoyed the 90s Valiant books. Next up is Classic X-Men number 8. And then let me flip it over here and show you the Phoenix on the back here. This issue is a reprint of Uncanny X-Men number 100. You get to see the new X-Men versus what appear to be the original X-Men. Okay, next book, a little bit more obscure. This is Count Duckula, number 5. This is based on the cartoon that came out in the 80s. Next book is from Comico Comics. This is Elementals, number 1. It's actually sealed inside of a poly bag with a trading card. I only have one other issue of Elementals, but it's actually a little bit more mature title. And we mentioned him earlier. This is Eternal Warrior, number 14. It's got the Eternal Warrior and Bloodshot on the cover. Okay, going back to Marvel. We have Fantastic Four, number 513, with The Thing, Human Torch, and Spider-Man. I actually got this book because Spider-Man was on the cover. Next up is some Marvel Tales. Newsstand, Marvel Tales number 204, Spider-Man and the Man-Thing. For those who don't know, Marvel Tales reprint earlier Spider-Man comics like Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and Marvel Team Up. Next up, Marvel Tales number 220, Spider-Man, the Punisher, and Cloak and Dagger. This reprints a Spectacular Spider-Man issue. Next is Marvel Tales number 254. This reprints one of the first team-ups with Spider-Man and Ghost Rider, and this is Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. Next book, I actually already had this, but for $1 I couldn't pass it up. It was always one of my favorite Ultraverse from Malibu. Prime number 1, first full appearance of Prime. Next is Prime Annual number 1 from Malibu Comics. I actually didn't have this one, so this fills a little gap in my collection. Now that I have this, I've completed the entire Prime run. Next up is a new issue. This is Star Trek Defiant number 1. This spins out of the Star Trek Deep Space Nine show, focusing on some of the characters, like Worf, of course, looks like Major Kira. I'm not sure if that's lore. It looks like lore, not Data. And a Vulcan who looks like Spock, but I'm not quite sure if that's Spock or not. I haven't read this one yet. I'll have to find out. Next up, this is from 1998, I believe. This is DC 1 million, but particularly Superboy 1 million. Back during 1998, they had DC 1 million. It was a 4-issue limited series. It focused on, in a million months from now, what the year would be. And it shows these characters, Superboy, Superman, the Justice League, and what they would look like and what the world would look like. It was a pretty good story. Our next issue is another new one. This is Superman Lost #1. I thought I'd check this series out. Basically, Superman is going on an adventure to space. 1 minute he's there, the next minute he's back, and it turns out that he's been gone for many years. And the rest of the characters on Earth, to them, it's only been a few seconds. So we'll have to see exactly what happened here and why Superman was gone for so long, or he appeared to be gone for so long. Okay, we're going to switch over to Image next. This is Wildcats #28. So this series ran to 50 issues. This is after Jim Lee had left the title. I don't really think he was involved anymore, and we have a new writer and a new artist. Next up is Wildcats #42. Okay, switching back to Marvel. I'm actually trying to complete this run. This is Avengers West Coast #96, crossover with the Infinity Crusade. You can even see the Goddess there on the cover and War Machine. Sticking with Marvel. I already had the first issue of this, but this is Fantastic Four #2099, #2. This is where the modern day version of the Fantastic Four, they get transported to the future world of 2099. Fantastic Four 2099, issue 3. Issue 4, guest starring Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. Issue 5. I like the back here. It's got the, back when it came out, Spider-Man cereal that you could get. Issue 6. Issue 7 looks like Atuma from Namor. So obviously something going on with Atlantis. Issue 8. Next up, we're going to stay in 2099. But these are a little bit out of order here. Apologies for that. This is 2099, World of Tomorrow, #7. Got the Bloodhawk character from X-Men 2099. Issue 7, Spider-Man 2099, and you can see the Phalanx have come to Earth, and the 2099 heroes have to stop them. This is issue 4 of World of Tomorrow, Dr. Doom. Issue 5. Okay. And I alluded to this earlier. This is Wildcats issue #50. It is the last issue in the original volume of Wildcats. Okay, we're going to change up again. We got back to the new 52, Justice League Dark #2. Got a nice Satana and Constantine cover. All right, let's see. Silver Surfer #24. Again, going back to the 1987 volume of Silver Surfer. Issue 25. #27, guest starring The Stranger, a cosmic being in the Marvel hierarchy. Issue 29. This one's pretty beat up, but I didn't have this one, so I wanted to go ahead and fill that gap. Next up, this is probably the most expensive book I'll show you today. This is Spawn #194. I believe this was from about 2009. If you're familiar with Spawn, Spawn really dropped low. Less than 15,000 issues per month were sold at about issue 180 to about 270. So any of those issues really in that range are really the ones that are low print run and hard to find. Okay, back to 2099. This is 2099 World of Tomorrow, issue 3. and I actually already have issue 1 and 2. We continue jumping around. We have Adventures of Superman number 433. And this is post-Crisis, after Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is from the late 80s. All right, now this is an interesting one. This is Abominations number 1. I believe this is from 1996. It was a 3-issue limited series, I believe. So this is issue 1. And then we also have issue 2. I did not find issue 3. Okay, we're going to go back to DC. And we have Amethyst number 1. This is the second series with Amethyst. This is a mini-series that came out in 1987. And then this will be the last older issue I saw before we go over to the newer ones. This is Avengers West Coast number 88, guest starring Wolverine. Okay, and let's transition now to the new books that have just come out. We have Action Comics number 1052. This is the Superman family basically going up against Lex Luthor and Metallo. Next up, this is kind of a controversial one. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 21, Legacy number 915. The reason it's controversial is because they're starting to get into the reason on why the relationship with Peter and Mary Jane and Peter and Aunt May and basically Spider-Man and the rest of the hero community is basically not doing very well. Peter did something 6 months ago. It was alluded to in the first volume of this issue of this particular series of Amazing Spider-Man. And this is starting to peel back the layers on what did Peter do 6 months ago that basically made him a pariah to the rest of the Marvel Universe. Next up is a facsimile. This is Batman number 357. I believe this is the first appearance of Killer Croc and Jason Todd. Next up is Batman number 133. This continues Batman in an alternate Earth where Batman never actually existed. This is a follow-up to the Failsafe storyline. I'm not really quite sure where this is going. It is pretty interesting. So if you want a good mystery and trying to figure out basically what is going on with Bruce Wayne and Batman and why he's in this alternate world, I would definitely check out Batman right now. Next up is probably my favorite Batman title. This is Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo. This is from Mark Silvestri. The art and the writing in this are very good. Basically, Harley Quinn has been kidnapped, and Batman and Joker have to team up to rescue Harley Quinn from this new madman. And the reason that Batman decided to help the Joker is because Joker has basically kidnapped Commissioner Gordon, and he's using that as leverage to get Batman to help him and not just put him in jail. Next up, this is, I believe, the last issue of this. This ties into the Lazarus Planet event at DC. This is Batman vs. Robin number 5. Really solid story. It connects threads going back to Batman and Superman World's Finest. Very solid book. Very good interpretation of Batman and his supporting characters. This next one is a straight-up cover buy. This is Catwoman number 52. Currently following Catwoman 50, Selena Kyle's in jail. This is one of the ones who was kind of a protege, you could say, of Catwoman, who's kind of filling in her shoes until Selena Kyle can get out of jail. Next up, this is kind of a strange but a good comic. Detective Comics number 1069. I would be lying if I said I knew exactly what was going on. I find this story very confusing, but it seems to have a lot of supernatural and basically almost a reincarnation of a Batman-like character that has constantly has stopped Gotham from pretty much falling into complete chaos and despair. And so Batman is basically fighting these forces that have been trying to complete Gotham's fall for centuries. Next up is Flash number 794. This is the 1 Minute War part 5. I will say that the last issue did pick up quite a bit. I thought the story was slowing down. I'm hoping that this issue can continue and not let up on the action. Next up is King Spawn number 20. I've said it before, but I highly recommend you check out the Spawn books. The paper quality is top-notch. The art is very good. The writing is very good. The stakes are very high. It's $1 cheaper than pretty much every other book on the stands at $2.99. The only thing I have about Spawn books is they do seem a little slow, but like I said, the action is solid and the writing is very good. Not to mention the art. Okay, next is the new volume of Predator #1. The original volume was 6 issues, I believe, and this continues those plot lines from the first Predator story. Next up is another Spawn book, issue number 339. Basically like King Spawn. Really high production on these books. Good writing, good art, solid material that the paper and the cover are made out of. You can't go wrong with any of the Spawn books right now. Another Spawn book. This is Spawn Unwanted Violence #2. This one's a little pricier at $4.99. It is the second part of a 2-part miniseries. Next up is Spider-Man #6, Legacy #162. I had been down on this book because it got very slow and focused on characters I did not care about. In this issue, it really shows that it shows Peter Parker, if he had never been bit by the spider, becomes Spider-Man. But he still puts his skills, his science skills, and his innovation to good use to help out Silk, who is actually the main spider character of this particular alternate reality. Next up is Star Wars #32. This continues the current story arc where they're in no space, looking for a bunch of ships to help out the Rebel Alliance. I find this story dull still. The last issue really needed to pick up some, and the no space story is frankly pretty boring. I really would like to see it just go back to the rebellion fighting against the Empire and not this tangent storyline. Next up, Star Wars Hidden Empire #4. This continues Crimson Dawn's assault against the Emperor and Darth Vader. Very solid book. A lot of good action with Darth Vader and then Kira and Crimson Dawn trying to figure out how they can stop the Empire, particularly Palpatine and Darth Vader. Next up is Star Wars The Mandalorian #8. This continues the adaptation of the Mandalorian TV show. This is issue 8, which corresponds to episode 8 of season 1 of The Mandalorian. Heard a lot of good things about this, but I got high hopes for it. This is Superman #1, starring Kal-El, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, the classic Superman and his supporting characters. I really have a lot of high hopes for this. And the last book, another book that I'm so close to cutting this off of my pull list, but I haven't. This is Venom #17, Legacy #217. This continues basically Eddie Brock's travels through time, and you see the different versions of Eddie Brock. Basically, some of them are trying to get back to his son Dylan. Some of them want to kill Dylan. It is a very confusing mess of a story. The art is good by Brian Hitch, but that's really the only positive thing I can say about this book. The sooner we can get this behind us and focus back on just Eddie Brock being Venom, the better. Okay, that was the last book to go over today. I know it was a little longer. Thank you for staying with us, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.